Ahoy, everyone, and welcome back to the L.A.M.E Book Club podcast.
No.
My name is Melissa.
Hated that. Ellie. I'm Ellie.
Okay, I'm going to explain why I just said that. I just learned, and Ellie, I sent you this reel, but I don't know if you watched it or responded. Oh, well, you didn't respond, so thanks a lot. Anyways, I saw this reel that explained how the, phrasing of saying, hello, was just invented, 50 years ago for the telephone or something? And
Alexander Graham
started
Bell.
Alexander, well, and it started as a joke. Apparently, who invented the phone?
Alexander Graham Bell.
Okay, well, Alexander Graham Bell wanted everyone to greet by saying hello or ahoy when with the telephone. But then as a joke, someone started saying hello because it was like, oh, we can't hear you or something. I don't remember all the details now. It's been a couple of days.
Hold on. No. Thomas Edison was the one who started saying hello. And Bell was like, no, let's say ahoy. And so then they made this song that, hello, my honey, that was making fun of the term hello. Yeah.
That's what it was. That song, really hello, my honey, hello, my baby. Yeah, thank you. You're at least fact-checking me. That's exactly what happened. And essentially that song was created as a joke, but then it also really got people to start saying hello. So I told Ellie, I sent this to her, I'm like, this is so dumb, but incredibly fascinating to me. And I'm going to start saying ahoy on our podcast. So I tried it and I also hated it. But I just,
so that's the one and done.
It is a one and
Welcome
done.
To your history lesson
to try
today.
It. Alexander, you fool. That was not a good look. Hello is better. Anyways.
Right on.
Welcome back to the L.A.M.E Book Club podcast. Today we will be going over chapters 25 through 30. So buckle up, buttercups, and I'm still going to keep saying that because I have yet to find another word to replace, or phrase to replace buckle up. It just is so fitting. But thank you so much for being here. If you don't already follow us on social media, we're at L.A.M.E Book Club Pod up across all platforms. Like, subscribe. If you have an iOS device and you can leave a review, do that. We really appreciate it. But thank you so much for being here again.
Yeah. And we have merch. It's on our website, lamebookclubpod.com. If you're part of our Patreon, you'll get 15% off. We've got stickers and totes, little catchphrases for our show. And if you are part of our Patreon, we are going through Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. It's a fun time. We just did our live book club. Shout out to everyone that was there. Yep. We had a lot of fun laughing and chatting and getting off derailed, and it was great. So...
as per usual, as no surprise to anyone who's listened to this podcast for even one episode.
And we do have a Patreon shout out. Welcome to Kira. Hi, Kira.
Welcome, Kira. And before we jump in today, spoiler warning, we will be going through chapter 30 on Silver Elite. So it is fair game, those first few chapters, but we will not be going beyond that.
Yes. Okay, guys. You ready to jump in? Have we any... Ready. I guess I have one quick derail before we really hop in. I was on my phone this morning, as I am, and I saw a guy say let's do some reverse tropes. Let's spice things up a little bit. And he was talking about how about too many beds? How about lovers to enemies? How about he's really nice, but he just hates you? That was so funny. But unironically, I actually really do the trope lovers to enemies. I feel like it's so tragic. Maleficent, for example. Have you seen that?
Ellie is a fan of the tragic endings.
Yeah.
Which is so unique. No, I'm just kidding.
That's me. Type 4. That's me. Unique.
Yeah. No, it's just give me all the sappy romance lovey-dovey.
Yeah.
It's good. Well, you know what? I will say I do appreciate some difference thrown in there. If everything's the same all the time, it does get old. But I don't know. I think if I read a book and it was lovers to enemies and or someone die, one of the main couple dies at the end, Ellie would be like, wow, what a good piece. And I'd be like, that's what I read that. I spent time reading this for it to end that way.
My mom is the same. She knows me now. Obviously, she knows me well. But she was like, every time we watch a movie, she's like, Ellis and Grace, is this going to have a sad ending or a happy ending? Because I will not watch it. She never knows with me. All right, let's jump in. So, last time on the L.A.M.E Book Club podcast, Wren had just received her first link in a long while from Declan, who's part of the uprising. He tells her they're breaking her out. Meet someone named Adrian at midnight. And if we remember from the last episode, my prediction was Adrian was going to be somebody that she already knows, and she's going to be like, you're undercover? So, let's find out, shall we?
If we also remember, I don't think I had a prediction because I forgot we were going to do that.
Maybe you have one for today. So, Chapter 25, Wren fears what is that pink drink? That is so pink.
It is, thank you. It's Kirkland's version of like ice.
Oh yeah, I like those.
It's just like sparkling flavored water. It's delicious. This one's kiwi strawberry.
Nice. Shout out Kirkland. Shout out Costco.
Oh, also, we have to say this. No. We have to derail again. I have to say this for the pod. A couple episodes ago, bless you.
Thank you.
A couple episodes ago, were talking about how you pluralize everything. Yeah. And I was like, well, then I'm going to make it. And we were talking and we both agreed that it was Kirkland's with an S. It is not. It is just Kirkland.
Sacre bleu.
We both got Mandela affected so hard. And I also shout out in our Discord. Shoot, I can't now that I wasn't planning on saying this, so I don't remember who exactly it was now. I think it was Josie, but I can't remember exactly. Someone corrected us in our Discord too, because she was like, you guys, I also was like, what the heck? And she went in her pantry to check something to see if it was Kirkland's or Kirkland and sent a picture. So
fair enough.
And have to make that correction.
Perfect.
We used to do a segment called Ellie Messed Up, and we haven't needed to do that in a while, but I'm bringing it back because Ellie done messed up with that one.
It's one of those like 0 days without accident, and now it's
or 100 days without messing up, and now we have to erase it to 0.
All right. Chapter 25, Wren fears she's walking into a trap, but ultimately knows this is a risk worth taking. Donned in all black, she flees into the night. Her confidence dwindles when she notices the cameras are still operational. She complains to Declan.
Liar.
I know. And I was like, what the? So she complains to Declan, and he promises her it's safe. They're jammed. But she needs to hurry. Adrian won't wait if she's late. And Wren's like, cool. Yeah.
I would have to say here, because when he was like, yeah, no, you're fine. Like, you're still good. Yeah, it was the same thing when he's like, they're just jammed. I fear that I don't fully understand what jamming something means, because to me, jamming is like sticking gum inside it and it physically breaks. But I'm just too old, which is not a good enough excuse because I'm actually not too old. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
But I remember the one scene where literal like jams and jellies are coming through the computer and they're like, it's jammed.
It's jammed.
That's what you're picturing.
Kind of. It doesn't have to be, I'll give some leeway. It doesn't have to be literal jams and jellies. Yeah. But yes, like physically, like, and I even understand that you can do it wirelessly, but to me, I'm like, if something is jammed, it's going to be non-functional, which I guess technically it is, but it looks functional, which is, I just don't do technology. My mind is blown by that.
You need to watch National Treasure. It'll give you a really good
It's also been a while. POV. I have seen that, I will say, but it also has been a while since
I've watched that. Movie list.
That one I will happily watch.
Perfect. Nicolas Cage. Okay, we have to continue. So Wren was like, okay, cool. Then stops again. She rings Declan back and is like, I cannot remember how to get there. I simply cannot. So
actually, now that you mention it, I think I know where the West vehicle pool is.
He disparagingly projects a map into her mind, and Wren heads toward the tunnel where Adrian waits. Outside of just like knowing that Declan can project, that was such a weird scene to me. I was like, why did we add that in? Also, I can't remember how to get there. Thanks.
I think I would have thought about that. Here's the thing. I am, have you heard type A, type B, all that stuff? I'm type C. I've been seeing that going around lately. I have a few type A tendencies, a lot of type B tendencies. It's fun. Type C is where we're at. But in this regard, I absolutely would be type A if it comes to my physical well-being and safety of trying to escape this place.
Escape.
And so I cannot wrap my mind around the fact that she was not, I mean, I knew she only had like a day to prep, but like immediately in that first conversation with Declan that we talked about in the last episode, when he said, Adrian will meet you in the West Vehicle Pool, I would have been like, I don't know where the West Vehicle Pool is right then and there. Not waited until she's actively escaping, being like, you know, I'm a little turned around. Where's the West Vehicle Pool?
Same, exact same. And it was shocking to me that this had happened. But anyways, Wren heads towards the tunnel where Adrian waits and sees a red-headed beauty. Also, the book does not describe her as a beauty, but I can only assume. Well, I feel like any redhead is always beautiful.
Agreed. But she describes her as being like incredibly unique looking, but like not in like a passive aggressive way. Not like, ooh, not the way I called Ellie unique earlier in this episode. The way, like saying like, she specifically says, I would, like, that is a face I would remember.
It gives Anya Taylor-Joy to me.
Yes,
that her face is one I remember. It's so unique. It's so beautiful to me. And it's just memorable. Mm-hmm.
No, she's stunning, but she does have a very
totally different
look. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Wren starts off, the network has been ignoring me. And Adrian is like, because you're not important. Ouch.
I love that. Adrian was cold-blooded.
I know. But you know who was important? Bettima. Called it. Yeah. Turns out she was part of the uprising, a valuable piece. And now that she's gone, the uprising needs someone else with powerful potential to make it into Silver Elite. And I felt like, you know, in the beginning of the Disney commercials, here we go.
Oh, that's what I felt like. Peter Pan.
Finally, she's going to use her potential. So Adrian remarks,
this was confusing to me because I think if I were Wren, I would have been like, okay, I hear you, but I was told you were breaking me out of here. Not asking me to go deeper in. And like, she did not even for 1 second question it.
Consider that.
Really?
I didn't even question it. Yeah.
The whole time I'm sitting here, I'm thinking like, okay, how are they leaving? Like, when is Adrian? She just keeps talking about how they need someone in Silver Elite. I think it's wonderful that Wren was like, I could be that someone. Like, and finally we're getting her drive, her everything's in the right place. Like, she's gonna actually do something.
You could leave.
But they said she could leave, and she didn't once ask, when are we leaving? She was just like, yes, ma'am, got it.
That's crazy that I honestly also overlooked that. But
wild.
Sulavu, I think I was just too excited to be like, here's the reason that she's going to start using all of her potential. So Adrian remarks on Bettima's empath abilities, saying she ultimately was a liability because extreme emotions can spontaneously trigger their abilities. And I'd bet my bottom dollar that that's how Wren is going to find out she has all the other abilities as well.
Absolutely.
So Wren questions what happens next if she makes it into Elite. Adrian says, you'll do whatever we tell you is what happens next. Wren bites back with the little issue that she is in fact failing the program. And Adrian's like, well, there's 5 more weeks. Turn it around. And orders are coming to you from Declan moving forward. And so then Wren truly realizes this point. It's this or nothing. So she has nowhere to go but to Silver Elite.
Yep. I also liked that she was like, Declan is going to be your like point person. But she specifically said, but
don't
just
get it twisted.
Well, yeah, but she goes, but just know he's not even calling the shots. He's getting the orders. All he's doing is relaying this to you, which makes me feel like there's going to be some point where I haven't fully worked this out in my mind, but Declan is either going to, I don't want to not betray her. I don't think that that's necessarily what it is. I can't decide if he's either going to go rogue and I get kind of betray her, or go rogue in the sense that he's not going to agree with the orders that are coming and he's going to tell her to do something else, but then he's going to take the hit for it because he's what broke the telephone.
Interesting. Yeah. Like it. I like it.
I think my tin hat is screwed on a little too tight reading this book.
Maybe, but that's why we're here. Chapter 26. In Scene. The recruits are shooting guns in the desert. Wren's perfect opportunity to step it up. Small side note here. Kane and Liddy and Wren are talking, and Liddy mentions they're like kind of talking about airplanes and how they've never been on one, or some have been. And Liddy was like, "Oh, I've never even seen the ocean." And Kane was like, "Oh, I love the ocean. He's Wolf."
Okay.
End of story.
No, I actually have a thought later on.
Okay.
I can't remember if it's in. I have a thought later on in this book to where I will counter that. But
love it.
Continue.
Okay. So starting with easy targets, Wren nails all of her shots. And to me, I'm like, I would maybe ease into, oh, I'm getting better, not just like, turns out I've been hustling you this whole time. She attributes her insanely improved skills to staying up reading sniper tips.
I know.
I loved that.
See, and what was it? Was it Ford or Liddy or someone was like, see, books can be helpful.
Liddy,
I
yeah.
was like, oh man, what an unfortunate comment.
So then the recruits get paired up, and Wren is paired with Ivy. They don't know ahead of time where the targets are, and they only get 5 shots each. Target 1, Wren hits a bullseye. Then Cross shows up, and so there's like, someone to impress. Target 2, bullseye. Target 3, bullseye. 4 and 5, also dead center. But it's a real Katniss in front of the game maker situation. Really makes me wonder, is this Suzanne? Suzanne, are you Danny Francis? Because when she
really
looks at
gave
Ford,
Hunger Games.
it really did. Oh, I have something on that in a minute. So she looks at Ford and Cross. They're drinking coffee. They're laughing. They're not paying attention. And so Wren summons her plums and shoots the canteen right next to them. And before she pulls the trigger, she says, and I quote, "You only live once." My
YOLO.
Goodreads rating went down 1 star with an accompanying review that states, YOLO, page 247. I cannot believe that was put in the book. That's all.
There's some of the verbiage in this really makes me think that Danny is young, whoever it is. Whether it's actually Danny, someone else, like, is young. Mm-hmm. Because at one point she's like, yeah, fair. Like, in response to something too, and YOLO, which YOLO actually would age whoever this is a little bit, I think. But
kind of our age, yeah.
Older than us.
You think?
I don't know. Do you actively
YOLO came
say
out
YOLO?
when we were in high school.
Well, no, but I'm saying, like, do you actively use that in conversation
never.
still? That's what I'm saying.
Never.
It seems like someone who's older who's trying to pull up slang, thinking that that's what the children use these days.
Oh, no. Youths.
The youths, exactly. So I don't know, but some of the verbiage in here, it was like that. It does a couple of times I've been reading things and I'm like, ugh, it shivers my timbers with cringe.
Well, everyone is in disbelief that Wren is so hot fire with a gun, and Cross, through curved lips, says, nobody likes a show-off dove.
Except
later on,
everyone loves a show-off.
I like a show-off. Later on, Wren feels on top of the world until she sees her score for the day. D+, 65%. Ford says, take it up with Cross. He's the one who's scoring you. And she was like, okay. So throughout the next week, Wren excels, but all of her scores remain low. When they do a partner routine, Wren gets paired up with Bryce. Side note, until this chapter, I feel like I've never heard Bryce's name ever. And then she was in like all these chapters consistently. Do you feel that way?
No, I don't. I disagree. Because remember, I even specifically, that Bryce was she wasn't mentioned as much prior to these next handful of chapters.
Yeah.
Yes.
The little Nepo baby.
Yes, the staple.
Yeah.
But she was the one who had like a very, almost like so over the top reaction to the fact of them bringing in an aberrant for their shielding class, to the point where I was like, I think she's
I
hiding
do
something.
remember you saying that.
Was Bryce.
Yeah. Okay. I just feel like Bryce replaced Betima, I don't know, like her part in the story, because Betima was getting mentioned more and more until she was killed, and then all of a sudden Bryce is like now in the story quite consistently. So I'm like, was she just placed all of a sudden? Like we just now are getting, I don't know.
I mean, they did have a gap to fill, so
they They did. Just like the uprising. They also had Danny had to fill that spot. So Wren gets paired with Bryce, and though Bryce receives 100%, Wren receives 80. Ooh.
That sent me.
Yeah, even Kane starts to notice that this is a thing. So Wren takes it to the next level. She asks Declan for a scope of the officers' quarters. Chapter 27. The next morning, Wren asks Kane if he'll help her out by creating a distraction. He says he won't do anything without knowing why, so she leans in close and tells him. Very flirty. Very, very cute. Next thing we know, they're in, how do you say his name? Hirai?
I think I said hi, Ray.
That also works. I'm going to go with that. That sounds better. Next thing we know, they're in Hiray's class. Kane winks at Wren and deliberately bumps into Anson, who is so hot-headed, he immediately causes a scene. No questions asked. Just pushes back. The diversion is enough for Wren to slip into the cage and get what she needs. That night, while all the recruits are sleeping, Wren activates the signal jammer she took.
The thing that I still don't understand how it works. That thing.
The thing you put jam into all the computers.
Yeah. The jelly.
She's confident she'll get away with this because she has left the perfect human-sized pillow lump under her blanket in the barracks. And I was just like, are we 15? Do you remember when you and I used to do this when we snuck out at summer camps?
I totally forgot until you just unlocked a memory. Yes, I do remember doing that. Except the irony is that it was like 8 p.m. and all we did was like hang out outside the cabin. Like we didn't do anything worth sneaking out over. I think we wandered a couple of times, but
yeah, I don't know if you were with me. There were times where we would walk like a couple miles out and like
and like to see the stars and stuff.
Yeah. Very innocent activities.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I do remember getting caught one time.
Yeah, I was there with you for that. That was horrible. Yep. And everyone's excuse was, what time is it? I had no idea.
It's
2 a.m.
1 a.m.? What? Couldn't
all
possibly.
That to say,
your clock is wrong.
Melissa and I, before we left our cabin, perfect human-sized pillow lumps under the bed to make sure it looks exactly like we're sleeping. And also, when I used to sneak out at my house, my American Girl doll, Molly, she has the same exact color hair as me, so I would have like little tips of the hair sticking out as well.
Genius.
I know. Just to really sell it.
Did you ever get caught at your house, or did Molly really save you on that one?
Molly really took care of me.
Incredible.
So Wren slithers her way to the south end of the base and finds herself right in front of Cross's door. She hears voices inside, but chalks it up to him speaking into his comm. She moves to the roof and then to his balcony. The door is open because he's too confident in the base's security. Wren pulls out her cutlery knife, but then hears a female moan.
Yikes.
I'd leave. I'd leave.
I hate to say, I think I wouldn't. I would want. Here's why. I know she has no reason to, nor would I. But I love any excuse to be mad, and I would
mad is
want
my favorite
to know,
emotion.
It is. It's my default. And I would want to know, and I'm really outing myself and my terrible choices to the internet here. I would stay because I would not because I'm gross and would want to listen. I just would want to know how far it would have gone to know how irritated I was going to be the next day.
Hot take. I would just be mad already and then leave.
Fair.
But
I would want it. Then I could pull it up and be like, oh yeah, well you didn't seem to care last night when blah, blah, blah. Like, and this way I can have details. Fact check Cross right then and there.
I need facts. Well, similar to Melissa, this does not stop Wren. She pounces in mid-smoochy time and holds the knife.
Pounce in. I would be a fly on the wall in
worse.
the least creepy way. I was gonna say, as soon as we know where it's headed, or as soon as I knew that there was no ending, I would leave. But I would just want to make sure that happened before leaving.
Oh my gosh. Well, Wren holds the knife up to Cross's neck. The girl was the one from the pit that was all over him a few weeks ago, which would make me 10 times more mad. And Cross, while in a compromising position, plays it calm and cool. He tells the girl she needs to leave, and she's like, seriously? And Wren is beside herself. She is feeling it. She was so pleased with that outcome, and the apparent fact that Cross couldn't care less about keeping that girl around. Although I fear I could also argue the opposite if I were in Wren's position. Like, oh, he wants to protect her, so he's telling her to go.
Ooh,
I don't
it's
know.
funny. I didn't even consider that option. I think it's because of the way he was like, just leave. I think the reason I didn't think of it is if he really wanted to protect her, he'd be like, get out now. I'll find you later,
Yeah.
like or something. And he was just like, you can go. You're dismissed.
Yeah, that's true. Well, once she leaves, Wren removes the knife and calls Cross out for saboteur, her chances of passing the program. Cross wants to know why she's doing better, like why now? And Wren puts it plain and simple. I'm stubborn, but I finally came to terms with the fact that I have nothing left. She gets cocky, too, saying, I'm better than all the other recruits. You think Liddy could have lifted a jammer from under Hi-Ray's nose? And Cross is like, yeah, so also Hi-Ray's in trouble, because shouldn't have been able to do that. And
I love her response. Go ahead.
Me too. I was going to say, I liked when Wren was like, yeah, he should be in trouble, along with everyone else I was able to sneak past. If I watched them for 2 nights, I could figure out all of your guards' routines, which to me just proves that she technically should have just gotten 100% on all those first tests where they had to pay attention to their surroundings.
Well,
I felt like that was the point of that conversation. I really liked it.
Absolutely. Because, and we, the readers, knew that she sabotaged that one, that she actually knew all the answers and was purposely getting some of them wrong. So,
yeah. Pretty cool. So Wren triples down by saying she has nothing. Jim is dead, and if he was an uprising op, she didn't know and wouldn't know if he was running missions. And Cross cuts her off and is like, we don't think that he was. And Wren says she tried to find answers on Nexus, aka Google. And Cross is like, oh, I know. I see everything you look up, and I saw you look up my name too. I would simply end it all.
That would be my 13th reason.
That would kill me. It reminds me of the time that I texted a boy. I was like describing him. I think I was going to send it to you or one of my friends. I was describing him, but I accidentally sent it to him. My soul left my body. It was the worst day of my life.
That was before undo. That was before unsend.
It was before. It was before my iPhone, I think.
What? Oh my gosh, did he ever respond?
Oh yeah. He was like, what? And I was like, I think we should stop speaking.
I think this was my swan song. I'm transferring.
It was so bad. Anyways, talk about shiver my timbers. Still gets me to this day. Keeps me up at night. So Wren literally begs for another shot, and Cross finally agrees. He asks where she learned to shoot, and she honestly answers honestly. She says, it was my uncle. But then she goes into a little more dishonest of an answer when she tells him that she learned by the age of 10, she was really 5, at the ranch, it was really the Blacklands, and stayed out there for hours, until the light left them, because she wanted to be able to protect herself from the coyotes, the predators in the darkness. And Cross tells her, well, you've got good instincts, but you need to start passing your source tests. And so then Wren leaves out the front door smiling.
Oh, so good. All right. Chapter 28. The op tonight is jumping out of a plane, and Wren is stoked. Ellie, did you ever skydive with Grant?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know, because I knew he got his solo side, right?
Yeah, he was a big skydiver.
That's okay. Well, so I've only gone the once when I was like 19, but it was so cool.
It was
until
so cool.
The instructor, it was cool. It started off not so cool when they made me wear these fugly glasses and this sheepskin hat, and I did not have the option to take them off. But then the actual jump out of the plane was the best until the instructor fell on top of me when we landed.
You were 19. Where did you go? Do you remember the place you went to?
I don't remember the name, but it was in Galt. It was...
Yes. Okay, I have to tell you something. You're not going to like it.
No, that place got... not long... Yeah, because someone died not long after I went. Yes.
And then they investigated. So many people died. because of faulty equipment. And it's getting sued out the wazoo. That place got shut down and sued. So many people died.
Yikes.
That's crazy.
Well, I'm so glad that my only issue was the fugly hat and the instructor falling on me, because
you're blessed. That's crazy.
I came out unscathed.
Yeah.
Well, I have a video of it too. Well, maybe I'll find a clip of it sometimes, because I have the video of the guy falling on top of me. And I want to just clarify that it wasn't my fault. You're supposed to like pull your knees to your chest and like essentially just not do anything, and then the instructor like guides you. And I did that, but then he tripped. And then we fell forward.
He fell on, was he big?
I was bigger than me, and not massive, but I mean, it was fine.
Did it
was
hurt?
more just awkward. No, it was more just like this random Russian man strapped to my back and then falling on top of me, and I've known him for 45 seconds. That was
well, when I when I went skydiving, I just remember being up there. It was so freaking cold, and I don't have mittens on, and I remember my hands being the coldest part, so I balled them up like this, and I was trying to smile through it, but all the video and my pictures are just me like this, tucked in thumbs and everything. And so now Grant always is like, remember when you balls his hands up?
That is so funny. I'm actually really glad you said that too, because if anyone's ever like skydived, I think you skydove? No, dived. Anyway, whatever. You can attest to this. I went in January, so it was freezing. So cold. But I was beside myself with joy. Like, it was thrilling. I loved it. So but I couldn't stop smiling. One, because of how happy I was, and two, because of the air pushing my face. My teeth have never been colder in my life. I thought they were going to fall out of my face. Yeah. And so, like, I did have gloves on. That was the other thing. They did make me wear gloves, I think. So my hands were fine. They weren't
gloves.
No, they were. I think they were just regular gloves. It was just it was like, it looked like I don't even know. I'm not even going to try and guess the era, but like World War II, I guess maybe. Era of pilots where it was like the leather on the outside and the wool on the inside.
Yeah.
So like it did its job. My ears were cozy and toasty.
That's good.
But it just looked terrible. Anyways, but my teeth, I had to stop I was trying to be like, but I couldn't because my mouth just kept shooting open. And then every time I'd like close them, it'd get worse because then I'd get saliva on them and they'd get colder. It was, anyway, I was not expecting, no one prepared me for how cold my teeth were going to be doing that. Oh my gosh.
Fair warning, if you ever plan to skydive, it is cold.
It's very cold. So keep your mouth shut, hands open, smile with your eyes. Here's all the tips if you want your pictures and videos to look good, because we did it the wrong way.
The wrong way. All right.
Well, the Wren got lucky on that front, because she did not have anyone attached to her, so she didn't have to worry about any instructor falling on top of her, and she also didn't say anything about her teeth being cold, which makes me think that Danny has not actually jumped out of a plane. Liddy was unsurprisingly nervous, but after a little pep talk from Wren, she was determined and jumped with hardly any hesitation. They camp out in the desert that night at the base located there, but it turns out they're not done. Just for funsies, the commanding officers make them run an obstacle course. Once they're finished, they get the pleasure of doing it a second time, courtesy of one recruit, Franks, who claimed that this would never be useful in real life. Wren is like, F you, and to that I say, F you is right. I would be so annoyed.
I would too.
Later that night, gathered around a campfire, Liddy says, I miss Batima. To which Lash responds by saying, you don't believe him then? That she was aberrant? And I had to read that a couple of times because I'm like, who's him? And I realized he was talking about Ro. But at first I'm like, him? Because I'm like, no, don't you mean the like command everyone saying she was aberrant? But I think he was referring to Ro. It doesn't matter. Liddy claims that she doesn't know because she never saw her arms turn silver and she was standing right there. And when she asked Wren if she saw it, Wren's like, no, I didn't. Which, to be fair, she didn't. But yeah, still. And all of this, honestly, made me wonder a little bit about Liddy. Like, I still don't necessarily think she's aberrant, But this did give me hope that whenever she does learn that Wren is, and especially
Mm-hmm.
when she learns that Batima was as well, she'll not only be sympathetic to their cause, but she'd be willing to change the way that she thinks about all aberrants.
Yeah, and I think that Lydia is well placed because if my suspicions are
100%.
correct, I think Tana is going to end up betraying, but Lydia can kind of step
Yeah,
in to fill that void of like friendship that
totally.
Wren lost.
Yeah. No, I
Hmm.
forgot that you had brought that up because Tana is like so few, so or hardly mentioned so
I
much in
think that
these
the
few chapters.
Exactly. And I honestly don't think that there's a point in keeping Tana in the story anymore, except for the fact that she is going to betray
Agreed.
or like it's going to be found out that she turned on them.
Yeah, and I
Hmm.
totally agree with you. And I think I actually could totally see it being not from like a I was planning this all along, but more of a self-preservation
Yeah,
like
maybe.
situation that comes up,
Yeah.
especially with how many soldiers that at one point were mentioned that were in her old ward. Anyways, we can get
Yeah.
into that. But I do agree with you. I do think that would be a fun twist in the story.
Hmm.
Not fun, but a twist. And you're right, Liddy's in the perfect position to fill that gap if that does
Yeah.
happen. Well, someone decides to be a peach and starts projecting the General Redden's latest broadcast, giving Wren a minor heart attack, thinking that he was physically there in the vicinity. She decides to use this chance to take a shower, since she likes to do that privately so she doesn't have to show off her scar on her thigh to
The
everyone.
way these showers were described, I simply would go stinky for the entire trip. I could not
I
do
would
this.
go stinky. I know. Well, here, if you don't remember exactly how they're described, I'm about to fill in some gaps for you. The shower offers very little privacy. It's just a row of stalls with wooden partitions in between them. And then Wren sighs in relief when she realizes that no one else is there. Unfortunately for her, but fortunately for the sake of the plot, she reached the shower stalls at the exact same moment that Cross emerges from the other direction. He had disappeared a while ago, and Wren thought that maybe he left and wasn't actually going to be staying out in the desert overnight. But turns out that that was simply not the case. As if he didn't have a care in the world, Cross just walks right past her and just starts to strip. And Wren cannot help herself from staring. He comments on her lack of movement and asks her where her manners were, and if anyone had ever told her that staring was rude, though he clearly was enjoying what was happening. Wren decides that he cannot possibly beat her at this unspoken game that they're playing, so she decides to take a shower in the itty-bitty stall right next to his. Checkmate, my friend. They clearly see each other over the tiny partitions, and it's a game of wills at this point. Out of nowhere, Cross asks Wren if she's sleeping with Kane, and his jealousy is palpable.
I
It is
know.
palpable. I loved it. I loved how just out of the blue it was. And at first, she's kind of like, well, what's it matter? Is there any rule against it? And he was like, no, but if there was, you'd probably break it, which was hilarious because she goes, yeah, probably. But eventually, she tells him no. And then it's almost like word vomit. Like she can't even help herself. She asks him if he's still sleeping with Ivy, and he immediately shuts that down.
That
And
was
now,
like
go ahead.
I personally would be like, personally, if I were in that same position and someone was like, "Oh, are you sleeping with this person?" I would immediately be like, "Well, are you sleeping with them?" Like that's
Yeah,
not out of bounds to
a
me. But
non-answer.
did you honestly want to know if he was sleeping with Ivy? It seems so obvious he isn't. Like she's
I
still just like
know.
pent up and angry. So I don't know. I was like, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was more just that because I agree. To me, it's very obvious that he isn't. But at the
Hmm.
same time, she did walk in on him almost sleeping with someone.
That's what
So
I would have asked actually. Do you ever go back to that one girl? That would be my
fair.
question. And then
I
I'd be
think I was
mad.
more or less just implying that like he never gives anything. Like
Yeah,
you never suspect anything. So even though it doesn't seem likely, you never really know. And she knows that they have a history. So
for
I
sure.
think it didn't surprise me that she asked. But I also agree that like it didn't seem like that would have been the case, especially with
Yeah.
how adamant the way like Liddy was when telling the story about how he was just like done. I don't know. It did
Yeah.
not seem likely to me, but I think I understand why she asked. But I agree. I think I would have asked about the girl from that night over Ivy too.
Hmm.
Anyways, um, I had a really hard time understanding what happens next in this story. And I want to know if you did too, because essentially what happened was Cross he got out of the shower and he just kind of started laughing and walked away. I'm assuming, I mean, it says that he did, but as soon as Wren got back to the campfire where Kane and Liddy were waiting for her, they immediately start questioning her and asking if she's sleeping with Cross.
Mm-hmm.
And that confused me because earlier, like before she went to the showers, it was specifically stated that the showers were out of view from where they were all, like out of view from the campfire, which is what she was hoping for, or what she appreciated about it.
I don't know if I read that. I remember the way my mind pictured it was that they were far off and like, yeah, because I think she even, no, that was a different scene. But I felt like you could like see a rough like silhouette. Like you couldn't see details, but it's far away enough, but you could still see in.
I wish that I had the page right in front of me because it's possible that I'm misremembering, but I went back and like specifically read that it said they were far, or they weren't too far, but they were out of sight.
See if I can find it. You keep going and I'll look.
I just was a little bit confused about this, and when you're looking, it talks about it right before she actually, like, as she's thinking about going to the shower.
Yeah.
So like before the shower scene actually happens.
Okay.
Anyways, well, it's possible I missed something. Ellie's gonna fact check me, but I reread this whole little section like 8 times and I couldn't fathom the physical spacing. And I'm also going to call out, the reason I'm also going to double down on this is because I feel like this happens quite a few times within these next handful of chapters that I noticed where I have a hard time. Yeah, what does it say?
The showers are on the outskirts of the camp, but in eye shot of the fire, just a row of simple stalls with wooden partitions between them.
Oh, excellent. I misread that. Okay, perfect. Thank you, because I had a hard time with understanding that. But it's because I read it wrong, so thanks. Well, regardless, that doesn't take away from the fact that there are a few scenes later on in this where I have a really hard time understanding, like, point A to point B and the spacing of things, and I do call that out. But, whatever. Ivy overhears Kane and Liddy and Wren all talking about this, and based on the way she's staring at Wren, it appears as though she heard them. And Wren is like, I gotta get the heck out of Dodge. So she's looking for an excuse to leave and decides that she's gonna go fill up her water. Once she gets over there, then she runs into Ford. And I'm like, this girl cannot catch a break. And Ford makes a comment that it's rare to see Cross out of control. And I also like that he goes, there's very little that I like about you. And she's like, gee, thanks. And he was like, but this one I find entertaining. Like, and I just was like, man, I would be just so uncomfortable if I were her, quite honestly. And knowing that the showers were within eyesight now, like, again, the plums on this girl, I don't think I would have done what she did.
No, I'm telling you. I just simply would be like, they'd be like, you are so smelly and dirty. And I'd be like, and how? And how? I'm not going to shower.
Yeah. Well, chapter 29. Thanks to Liddy's tutoring sessions, Wren improves on her next written test by scoring an 85%. However, she still prefers the drills and mock operations, causing herself to wonder if she's addicted to adrenaline. And I would say that is a resounding yes, based on everything we've read so far in the book. Today, they're running an exercise called Wait for Rescue, and she's paired with Kane. Essentially, Kane and Wren are the hostages, and they have to wait for their rescue team that's been tasked with freeing them. And there's also one person tasked to guard them and an entire team serving as perimeter guards. Kane and Wren are bored out of their gourds, and after time and time again of their rescue team failing to get them, the impulsive and impatient duo decide to rescue themselves.
This was so good.
This was good, but it was also really hard to read because I'm like, Ford is so right. Like,
yes,
about all of this.
But that's why I loved it so much. They were so impulsive, and they both were just like, let's just do it. Let's get out of here. And he's like, you just had to wait just a bit longer.
Yeah. Well, they easily take out Ro, who is guarding them, and as they emerge, their initial sense of, and exactly as Wren quotes it, badassery, is immediately short-lived, seeing the look on Ford's face. He tells them that if they had just waited a mere 20 more minutes, they would have passed. But since they decided to free themselves, which was the exact opposite of the mission, and also the title of the operation, they failed. Literally everyone else's passes, even though no one freed him, except for them. Because they didn't, they literally couldn't even pass being hostages, which just made me LOL. After her conversation with Ford, it clicks with Wren why she was paired with Kane and why they were tasked as being the hostages. She's reminded about the weaknesses that she self-reported back in Section 2 and asks Kane what he had put as his weaknesses. He tells her that he put reckless, impatient, and too good-looking, which was just so typical, honestly, but hilarious.
I always fall in love with the wrong man in these books, I'm telling you. I'm just like, oh, he's so cute. I know he's not Endgame. I'm hurting myself. All right.
But he is
fine.
Like, it's not like he's the villain. Like, he's a good person too.
I know, but he won't get the girl, and that's fine. I'll just do it again the next book. I'll just keep going.
It's fine. I'll just do it again. Well, however, knowing what he put as his weaknesses did confirm Wren's suspicions that not only are they being paired together on purpose, but they were given this particular part of the operation because it challenges them and their weaknesses. Wren is pulled out of her internal monologue when someone yells in a very soldier-like way, "Attention!" And all heads snap towards footsteps walking towards them. Very Cadet Kelly.
The other movie, Princess Diaries 2. The prettiest girl's getting in the cab.
Lily Moscovich, the prettiest girl in the world.
It's like, the prettiest girl getting in the... I think it's a Stang, actually. The prettiest girl's getting in the Stang.
There it is.
I loved him.
It was hilarious. I totally forgot about that. I was thinking, I think, more Cadet Kelly because that was...
Yeah,
literally
they're cadets.
Boot camp. Yeah. Well, the footsteps belong to none other than Jade Valance and her posse. And Wren is convinced that Jade is there for her. Turns out that she's actually there for someone else who they immediately cut because Jade says that she had a vision where in 8 months from now, he made a mistake and got 6 other Silverblock soldiers killed. However,
I completely forgot about this part and did not have enough time to ruminate on it. That was crazy.
Well, I'm glad that you didn't because I had plenty of time to ruminate on it, and I want to bring something to our attention here, and it's a quote that had my tin hat gleaming like there was no tomorrow. In this chapter, Wren thinks to herself, "I wonder how many abilities she has," she being Jade. 3, 4. Uncle Jim told me that only the most powerful mods bear a mark, and that he never knew a marked mod to possess any less than 3 abilities. I have 4 myself, that I know of anyway. Perhaps there's a 5th or 6th or 7th lying dormant inside of me, waiting to be unleashed at the most inconvenient of times. But another one would have manifested by now, I think. I hope. So,
we called it so early on. High five to us.
There it is. This little bit of information gives us a couple of things to think about. The first is that the red dot that Uncle Jim burned off her leg isn't something that every single aberrant has, because that was my understanding earlier. The way that it was written, it was just that all aberrants had those marks.
Oh,
but
it's just the powerful
this
ones.
Confirms exactly. This tells us that actually it's only the most powerful ones that have them. Which means the fact that Jade has one on her face indicates that she is, in fact, a very powerful mod, which we already knew. But it's also helpful knowing that just because someone doesn't have that mark doesn't mean they couldn't be aberrant. So it's not a end-all, be-all. It's just you're a really powerful aberrant, essentially. Yeah. The other thing it points out is what we were just essentially saying. To me, it's a very obvious foreshadow of what Ellie originally called out and what I have now been writing the coattails of, is that she will develop more abilities other than the 4 that we know she currently possesses.
Yeah. Can I also add, I lightweight feel like it may be just the teensiest of plot holes with Jade Valance being able to go, walk past all of them, go right up to that soldier and be like, I just got a vision. I'd assume that she can control her visions, right? Like, look into anybody's future and be like, this is what you're going to do. So how come she was able to walk past? Maybe we don't understand the prophecy portion of this.
We don't know enough about precogs
Yeah.
Well, so here, and actually, I'm about to go into this a little bit. We don't know a ton about precogs yet, but that is one of her abilities now that we know. Because this is actually what I literally was about to talk about next. Wren also makes a comment internally, like to herself, saying, as far as gifts go, I don't consider precog much of a threat. Seeing the future isn't something I personally enjoy, but the worst damage I could do with it is what? Tell someone they'll die in a horrible fashion? Shatter a recruit's dreams of serving in the command? There are far more dangerous abilities to have. Which again makes me think that not only will she get precognition at some point, but it's going to be significantly more powerful tool to her than she could have possibly assumed or imagined.
She's underplaying it.
She's super underplaying it. So that doesn't really explain like what it does necessarily.
I feel like that actually almost plays into my argument more, is that she was saying like, what can I do? Tell someone how they're going to die. Meaning, here's my main question. Can they control it? Look at anybody and say, this is your future? Or does it just like, that's so Raven, like all of a sudden a vision comes to them and they have no idea like what just happened? Because I would think that if you can control it, Jade Valance should have been able to walk past Wren and be like, aberrant.
Yeah. Well, so honestly, actually, all of that makes me think lean towards the. We really don't know. We haven't gotten a lot of information about it yet, but it makes me lean towards the fact that it is random and more That's So Raven, because of everything other than telepathy, every other gift that we know, maybe projection's a little bit different, but like pretty much like empath, precog, I'm assuming, the inciting ability, all of that tends to happen randomly,
spontaneously.
Well, because like Batima couldn't control it. She didn't want to for all of that to happen, but it was a moment of high stress and she couldn't. And so I'm leaning more towards the fact that it's maybe
we do
random.
know that Wren's most powerful inciting moments happened spontaneously, but she was working with Jim to control it. Like, she can make it happen when she practiced with him. So all this to say, I mean, we obviously aren't going to have an answer, but if we find out that you can control precog, I call plot hole, and that's it.
Yeah. That night, Wren can't sleep thinking about Jade's visit, so she decides to go up to the roof. While she's up there, she links with Wolf, and as they're talking, she asks him how the ocean is looking tonight. Here's where I see your Wolf is Cain, and I will raise you a Wolf is Cross moment. He responds by saying, "It's always calm where I am." And then she asks him if he ever sees any boats. His response is, "I'm looking at one right now, the same one that's always there, anchored in the cove. It has a white hull with a blue stripe and a red flag waving on the captain's perch." When Wren asks him if the boat has a name, he responds by saying, "It's too far away to tell." And all of this would make it seem like Wolf is actually staring at the ocean on a boat in the water, right? Yeah? Yeah? Well, I would like to propose an alternative option here.
Okay.
One where Wolf is actually staring at a painting of the ocean on the boat. This would explain why it's always calm.
It's always there.
And why it's the same boat that he's always looking at. And I will bet that at some point we learn that Cross keeps a picture of this boat either with the ocean, either in his quarters or in his office somewhere.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good thought.
Thank you. That not only that though, I'm gonna take it a step further, and that one day Wren is going to see it. Yeah. And that painting is gonna be what connects everything in her mind. That Cross is 100%. Actually Wolf.
Good answer. Good answer.
Thank you. Family Feud, thank you very much. Well, then another situation happens, like I mentioned earlier, where I was pretty confused about like the physical layout of everything that was going on. Because it says that Wren returns to the bunks and the lights are out, but some of the recruits are up and their faces are illuminated by the glow of their sources. And it says that Cain is still up and awake as well. But then literally the next sentence says that Cain is like, "Are you okay?" and is watching her lace up her boots. How did she get in bed, and why wasn't she wearing boots before? I mean, here's the thing. I guess it's possible that she was barefoot when she went up to the roof, and it's possible that she, like, I got into bed. The way it was written,
you know what's funny?
What?
We always say, like, oh, Sarah did a number on us when we can't trust a MMC, right? I think in this case, Rebecca's done a number on you. When time jumps and you're like, oh, yeah, Sulavu. But then Rebecca makes it super intentional that time jumped and we just missed it. I feel like you're catching all this.
It's not that no. It's not that, because the amount of time that would have jumped would have been like a minute and a half. It's not like it's been months and I'm like, what? Fill in the gaps for me, Danny. What's happened here? Mm-hmm. It's just literally like, because when I'm reading, I'm visualizing all this in my head. Like, it's like a movie playing in my mind.
I'd say a majority of us do that.
Agreed. But my movie glitched because in my mind she had just walked into the barracks because that's what it said. Someone has their signal jammer on when they were, because it had just said she arrived at the barracks and the lights were out, and then all of a sudden she's sitting up in her bed lacing her boots. So I'm just like, ugh. My like short circuited, like trying to picture all of this.
All right, but you go on. I'll figure it out.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter that much. It's just there's a lot of little things like this, and it's just it was hard for me to read. It really pulled me out of the story every time it happened because my movie glitched, and I was like, I had to go over it a couple of times. But anyways,
yeah.
I think I'm reading into it way too much, but it was just because of me. But whatever, it doesn't really matter. And Wren decides that she's going for a walk because she can't sleep, knowing that Cross will know she's out there, and she's also internally trying to decide if she actually wants him to find her or hopes that he stays away. It doesn't take long for Cross to show up and find her and say that she's always making him chase her. She feigns disinterest, and then he tells her that she drives him crazy.
Oh.
He says, I have a job to do, a block to run, elites to supervise, and I spend all my time wondering what crazy stunt Wren Darlington is going to pull next. My feet were kicking, I was squealing. Then he says, I don't get involved with recruits. Out of nowhere. Like, she didn't even respond. He just goes, I don't get involved with recruits. It felt like he was, like, trying to convince himself, which I do think he was.
Oh, hold on. Okay. I found it.
Okay.
I fear, Melissa, and I say this with love and respect, you need to read maybe a little slower. It says, I return to the bunks. The lights are out, but some recruits are still up, their faces illuminated by the faint white glow of their sources. Kane is still awake, the blanket pushed down to his waist. His chest is bare, a broad expanse of shadows and muscle. He watches me lace up my boots. You okay? He murmurs. I'm not tired. I'm going to go take a walk. So she's probably just in slippers or barefoot.
I return to the bunks.
Yeah, and now she's putting on her boots to go outside.
It was just too much. No, that's exactly what I read. It was just too quick of a turnaround for me. It should have been like, for me, it should have been like, I return to the bunks, and after tossing and turning for hours, I decide I can't sleep, and so I lace up my boots again. Or like, that would have made... Yes.
Immediately, if I look at my bed, I'm like, am I tired or am I not? Now I'm going to go. I'm going to leave.
I don't know. It wasn't descriptive enough for my movie. Let's just... and that's a me problem.
You need to write fanfic, I think, is the next step then.
No.
Returns to her bed, sleeps in the bed. The end.
Good night, moon. Good night, cow. Good night, stars.
Did you write that book?
I have a confession, everyone. I wrote it in the womb.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Wren is her usual sarcastic self and says, I didn't ask you to get involved with me. To which Cross responds by saying, no, you just take your clothes off and get into the shower with me. Steamy. But Wren says exactly what I first thought when I read this, which
Me too. I was about to even say it now.
I didn't get in the shower with you. I got in the shower next to you. Mm-hmm. Next to you.
Facts.
And I love technicalities.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, Cross loses his control and pushes Wren up against the wall. She tries to pretend like it hurts, even though she even admits to herself that it doesn't. And Cross knows it. He's like, no, it doesn't. And then he says, you're not timid or weak, Dove. You're a firestorm, and you're going to burn everything in your path if you don't learn how to restrain yourself. Which I highlighted in my Kindle, and not because it was overly sweet or anything, and honestly, not even super foreshadowy. But maybe a little bit, I highlighted it because earlier there in the chapters that you went over, Ellie, at one point it wasn't super important, but at one point,
wait, are you talking about the Anson and Roe thing? Is that what you're going to bring up?
No.
Okay, I'll bring that up next. Go ahead.
Well, at one point it describes his Cross's tattoos,
Mm-hmm.
and it says that some of his tattoos were flames or like fiery wings or something,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me wonder how long he's had those tattoos. I know one of our listeners has a theory that his tattoos were put there to cover up his silver, and that is still by far a way better theory than what I'm about to say.
Uh-huh.
But I'm wondering if they're newer, like did he get them for her? Because he calls her Dove. He calls her a Firestorm. So if it's like fiery wings, like my first thought is Phoenix.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean that's not the same
Rising from the ashes.
Yeah.
And
there's probably a deeper meaning or something, but
I could be on board with this because this is not the first time that Wren has been described as like someone who's fiery. Because when she was talking with Anson and he's like, you're a fire, like I want to see you burn. Ro just wants to like pick up your ashes. Like very descriptive with the fire.
Again, also I thought Phoenix in that conversation too because of rising from the ashes. But well, and my other thought when reading this was if there's gonna end up being some kind of like fated mate situation in this book, which I really don't think so, just because it's leaning way more dystopian versus high fantasy.
I was gonna say I actually we'll come back to that.
Yeah. Well, but either way, I felt like it needed to be said because that thought did cross my mind with how much fantasy we read.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, this quote made me think of his tattoos and wonder what his tattoos could mean for the future of their relationship and this series.
Yeah.
But I also do think it is a little foreshadowy in the sense that we know that Wren needs to get her impulses under control and that she will be her own undoing if she doesn't.
Yeah.
So there's that too. But back to the situation at hand. Cross tells Wren that he's not like this with women. He doesn't chase or beg. But with her, she makes him want to break down her defenses. He also tells her that he needs to know what she tastes like and instantly begs her, or essentially is begging her, but in like a commanding way to let him kiss her. And that's game over for Wren because she pulls him into a very passionate smoochie. They are like animals until they hear voices. And even though they're pretty sure that it's just the guards on the South Tower Plaza chit-chatting, once they broke their kiss, reality crashed down on them both, and Wren asks if she can be dismissed before leaving the tunnel they were in.
Oof.
Chapter 30. Last chapter of the day, folks. They've started jogging early in the mornings, which no one is a fan of, but none more so than Liddy. Wren sees Cross and can't help but think of the night before, when all of a sudden she hears her name, Ellie. She glances over to see none other than Jordan!
Screaming! I was screaming!
I know. And if you don't remember, he was the clingy soldier from the inn back in her ward in like chapter 1 or 2.
I can't believe it. I was so mad.
Right. I assumed that he would get brought back up again at some point simply because like they named him. He had a name, so it's not like just some rando. But this was so much better and sweeter than anything I could have expected. He tells Wren that he's glad to see her and that he was worried about her, which kind of surprised her. He also says that he tried to find her after he was told that she was detained and didn't realize that she had actually been recruited. Wren gives him the very, very quick cliff notes of what happened, and essentially just says that she ended up being recruited after she was cleared by Valance. Jordan says that he was like, "Oh yeah, I told the command that you were innocent." And her reaction was so funny. She was beside herself with shock at this because she even thinks to herself, she's like, "Wow, I mean, I'm not that good in bed. So
I know.
Why is he talking to command about me?"
I thought that was so funny, but I can't put it together yet, but I do feel like Jordan was brought back into the story for more than just like our girly entertainment of like this freaking guy. But I feel like because Jordan was with the guards that came to arrest Jim, right? I'm wondering if this was like he was going to start talking, like when I was reading this, I was like, is he going to start talking about how Tana was the one who was like, oh yeah, Wren lives over there.
Oh, interesting.
And I wonder if that
Yeah.
conversation will come back around after this.
Well,
but
I don't think it will. I don't think it will. Well, potentially, but
yeah,
we'll see. But poor misguided Jordan with his poor misguided faith. He sneaks a glance over at the officers and then raises his hand to her face, brushing his fingers on her cheek, and Wren feels Cross's eyes burning holes into her back. Immediately, Cross is yelling over to her to quit fraternizing and rejoin her cell. Mm-hmm. She tells Jordan that she has to go, and he's like, okay, well, no, yeah, cool, I'll track you down later. And she was like, no, thank you, but she pretends. Yeah, she pretends. She's like, actually, you know, did you hear that? I don't think that's going to be super a good idea for me. It might get me in trouble. And he was like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Cool. Again, he's like, I'll just contact you on your comms first. Well, this additional bit of 5 seconds of conversation is really pushing Cross's patience. And he yells again for her to get back. So she does. And I like when she does, Kane and Lydia are like, what was that about? And she's like, I don't want to talk about it. They learn that they're going to be doing undercover ops this week, but since they can't go out on their own just yet, they'll each have a handler, and 5 people will be going for the first time tonight. Wren is ecstatic when she learns that she will be one of the 5 that gets to go on the first undercover op. Ro, however, is pissed that not only will he not be going tonight, but he's not even on the schedule at all. Cross tells him, he goes, and this is what I told the general, but they don't have a solid cover for him in place just yet. But really, that just feels like a cop-out, and Ro felt that way, I think, as well.
It's so hard because I don't like Ro. He's a bully, and he's mean, and he's a killer. He murdered someone. But at the same time, do I sometimes feel bad for him? He's such a peon in this family, and it just kind of makes me feel like, well, I can understand, like those episodes we did of like, I can't justify his actions, but do I understand where he's coming from?
Why?
Yes. Yeah. And it makes me sad for him.
Yeah, and I think I feel the same way Wren does, too, because it's like, you're right, he is a peon. He's the reject in this family.
Yeah.
And I think I would have sympathy for him if he didn't act the way that he does.
But he does. But he's the worst.
He acts the way that he does, and I understand why he turned into that because of the family dynamic, which we will get into in the next episode more. But regardless, it doesn't matter. Like, just because of your circumstances doesn't mean you have to turn into this a-hole. Yeah. And so I don't feel bad for him at all because of his own choices.
Yeah. And then, but he also keeps just bringing it up. Like, oh, I was never invited to the murder mystery parties. Oh my gosh. Oh no. I don't know.
It's good. It's fun.
All right.
Well, when she gets back to the barracks, she finds a dossier that has been loaded into her source with a detailed biography of her undercover identity, and that she has 2 hours to memorize it. She's later taken to a wardrobe room where she's able to pick out clothing to match her undercover persona.
My favorite part.
She's in this... I know. She's in this room with Struck and Bryce, and when she's there, she also learns that her handler got reassigned. She's no longer with Hadley. She's now with Cross.
Shocker.
I know. Surprise, surprise. Her op is at a site called Haven, owned by a woman named Shanice Nelson. It's an illegal brothel masking itself as city lodgings with a pub downstairs. Her objective is to make contact and ask about a job. She's supposed to be there because she doesn't want to apply for human services as it's too heavily regulated and there are no credits to be made. After getting dropped off, she finds Haven and walks in and sits at the bar. Her undercover persona is naive and uncertain, so she really leans into that. She starts by talking to the bartender, and originally saying she wanted to try real whiskey, but the bartender's like, I fear you don't have enough Lux credits for that one. So she's like, fine, give me the synthetic stuff. A pour. The bartender starts pouring her the real whiskey, though, and just winks at her, and it's like, it's our little secret.
Oh.
I know. She tells the bartender it's her birthday, and she just really felt like celebrating how an elite would to see what it's like to live as one for a night. She then asked the bartender if she knew where she could find Shanice. This gives the bartender pause. So Wren tells her that she's like, oh, no, someone told me, my friend, she told me that I should talk to her about job opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
The bartender responds with a very scripted answer saying that all job assignments are provided by the company, and Wren tells her that she's like, well, I'm looking for something a little more off books. The bartender doesn't seem convinced. So Wren tries to play it off by saying, no, it's fine, no worries, and just turns around in her chair and is just watching all the patrons.
Mm-hmm.
Until she hears the bartender talking to a woman and nods over at Wren. Shanice walks over and says that she heard Wren was looking for her. Wren tells Shanice that her name is Gilly, which made me think of Gilly. Gilly? The SNL?
What's that? No, I don't watch SNL.
What? I know, it's old.
This.
It's Kristen Wiig. Well, but it's old SNL. It's Kristen Wiig. She's like, sorry. Well, anyways, it was funny. She says that she was just transferred to the Point from Ward G about a month ago and is working in administration. She also tells Shanice that a friend of hers told Wren that Gilly, that if she needed anything, she should find Shanice. Shanice asked her, like, well, who's your friend? But Gilly's like, well, I don't want to betray her confidence. And that immediately walls up for Shanice. She's like, well, sorry, like, I got nothing for you then. But she stops talking mid-sentence because all of a sudden, Cross walks into the room.
Dun,
the
dun,
end.
dun. The end. Friends, it's been a ball. Join us next Monday for chapters 31 through 36. And do not forget to like and subscribe. Any last words, Melissa? All right. Nope. Bye.